Okay, guys, a lot happening here in the financial markets. Banks collapsing right now. In fact, the second largest bank in US history just collapsed. And there's a potential for it to spread into other banks right now, as I'll give you the details here of that here. And the Republican will a part of the Republican Party just released their document on their demands for the debt limits, and it ain't pretty. And I'll give you the Democratic response to it, which is an absolute nightmare. And they're basically saying that we could see a default on this, which could really be financial ruin for our country. I'll give you that all here in this video. Let's jump right in because things are getting crazy here. I know you can't believe this stuff. You can't make this stuff up. Here we go. Thanks for liking these videos. And if you're new here, make sure to subscribe. You're not going to believe this stuff. Okay, so yesterday, the second biggest bank collapse in US history happened. Yeah, it's called the Silicon Valley Bank. And it affects a lot more than just Silicon Valley because these are a lot of small businesses, which is really sad. And a lot of people's jobs are probably going to be lost here. All told, customers, there was a literal run on the bank. $42 billion of deposits were withdrawn from this bank in one day. And this happened because the bank said that they needed to raise $2.25 billion. And what happened is that the customers and the companies that had more than $250,000 in there, the owners of small businesses, medium-sized businesses, got word of this, and the venture capitalist funds said, this could pose a problem. They need to raise $2 billion. They could be in a financial hurt. And they started calling everybody they knew and said, get your money out. And this caused a literal run on the bank. So people started withdrawing their money. And even though the bank needed to raise $2.2 billion, people went and withdrew $42 billion from the bank. So boom, what happened? A literal run on the bank. And a lot of people were saying it wasn't hard at first to withdraw their money before the, shit hit the fan, right? And it was just a few clicks. Log in, withdraw the money, boom, you got your money. But what happened is eventually the system went down, and that's when things got really bad. This is the second largest bank to ever crash or go under. And now it could pose a bigger problem as well, as this could spread to other banks in the system. Yeah, Silicon Valley Bank shut down by regulators in the biggest bank failure since the global financial crisis of 2009. The FDIC said in the announcement that insured depositors will have access to their deposits no later than Monday morning, but only up to $250,000. So companies that had millions of dollars of their business there are SOL, and their whole business could be out of business now. This could cause thousands of employees and businesses to literally go out of business. I mean, remember there was $42 billion withdrawn just by the time that it was shut down. This doesn't even include the money that wasn't able to be withdrawn. Yeah, this is a publicly traded stock on the stock market. The stock price was halted, and we'll have to see what happens here because a lot of people are saying that they may have to withdraw their money because they're worried about this happening at other smaller banks as well. You guys can let me know your thoughts here, but we'll see what happens here. And this is what Senator Elizabeth Warren was talking about when she grilled Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell, when Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell, in his actual statements, his actual piece that he put out, said that he expects at least 2 million employees to lose their jobs because of interest rates going up. Not an actual run on the bank, but because the economy is going to get bad, businesses are going to go out of business because of interest rates going up and just things getting more expensive and not having access to capital. Well, we're starting to see the signs of this. And if you remember, if you didn't see that video, I'll link you to it. But Elizabeth Warren, put some statistics in there and basically said how bad things are. And the majority of times, this leads to a very bad recession. I'll link you to that video here in a moment. It's a very good video. It's one of the best videos that we've had here recently. It's crazy. Meanwhile, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen calls the Republican plan to prioritize payments, which they just released here, a default by another name amid the debt ceiling fight. This is the Freedom Caucus, the Republican Freedom Caucus, which is a portion of the Republican Party, just laid out the spending cut demands for the debt limit. And this is not the whole Republican Party, but a portion of it. And here's what they just said. Members of the House Freedom Caucus yesterday presented a set of spending cuts and budget proposals they want as a condition of even considering voting in favor of raising the national debt ceiling. Laying down one of the first markers in the House Republican Conference for debt ceiling negotiations. The hardline conservative caucus wants to cap overall discretionary spending at fiscal 2022 levels for 10 years, while allowing for 1% growth per year, which is unbelievable. Only allowing for 1% inflation per year, which is anemic. So just think about this here, which would be a $131 billion cut from the current levels alone. The group would aim to keep defense spending at current levels, though. But remember, that would also be only a 1% growth, which is their defense levels have been increased by much more. In addition, the caucus called to end President Biden's student loan forgiveness program for 40 million Americans, which is currently in the Supreme Court, hasn't even been ruled on. Rescind unspent C-19 Inflation Reduction Act funds. Enact the REINS Act, a bill that would broaden congressional input on agency regulations. And loosen domestic energy production regulations. Yeah, that's a mouthful. The group also wants to restore the Clinton-era work requirements on welfare programs like Medicaid and pass a preemptive continuing resolution to set non-defense discretionary spending at fiscal 2019 levels in order to pressure Congress to pass appropriations. So this would be going back 4 years ago. And we know how bad inflation it has been the last several years. So this would be a pretty massive cut to all sorts of things. Things like Medicaid, SNAP benefits. I mean, everything. Everything across the board that you can think of. Quote, we've got a serious proposal. We urge our colleagues on the Republican side and the Democratic side to come along. If you don't like what we've offered, bless you. That's fine. What have you got to offer? House Freedom Caucus Chairman Scott Perry, Republican from Pennsylvania, said in a conference flanked by more than a dozen of other Republican group members. Here's White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre speaking for the Democrats. Here's what she has to say on behalf of this. Take a listen.
Good to see you. It's good to see you, too. So I guess the question is, the argument, so far as I can adduce it from Kevin McCarthy, is these should be essentially secret behind closed doors negotiations, and it would poison the well for them to be public in any way about what budget they want. What do you think of that?
Well, that's not how it should work. Let's see some transparency. Let's see from House Republicans, what is it that they value? What is it that they see as fiscally responsible to move forward for the American people? I mean, Chris, you've heard them. We've heard them for many years now. They want to cut Medicare. They want to cut Social Security. These are things that they have voted on. And that's not something that the president believes in. He has said very clearly over and over again, and you heard him at the State of the Union where he laid it out for Republicans that were sitting in front of him. And he said he's going to fight for Medicare and Social Security. And you saw what they put forward, the Freedom House Caucus, the GOP Freedom House Caucus. That's what they put forward is basically what they said they value, which is selling out the middle class to corporations and the wealthy. That's what they put out today. That is the plan that they feel that they need to move forward with, which is actually kind of it's a bit insane, right? When you think they're going to do the biggest cuts to Medicare and that we've seen in decades, they want to basically give a gut punch to everyday Americans by not doing anything to lower the deficit. If anything, it adds to the deficit, giving tax breaks for the wealthy. It's a tax base for special interest, rich special interest. I mean, that's what they so far seems to be saying that they want to do. So again, the president's calling on McCarthy to come forth with his budget, and then we'll see what we can do. We'll go line by line and see what they believe is their value statement to the American people.
The Scott Perry House Freedom Caucus proposal that you noted today, which I should say Rick Scott endorsed, which was interesting given all the back and forth with Rick Scott in particular at the State of the Union. About $400 billion in student debt relief would be gone, rescind unspent COVID funds, cut the climate change funding that was in the Inflation Reduction Act, of course, the first significant climate change funding of its time, capping discretionary spending at fiscal 2022 levels for a decade, which sounds sort of anodyne, but is like $2 trillion in domestic policy and domestic program cuts. Do you think is that what the White House views as the alternative here, or the thing that's going to be, compromised against?
Well, look, that's something for Speaker McCarthy to decide, right? As you said, they put a plan together. They basically, it seems to be their value statement to the American people. And honestly, it would be funny if it wasn't so scary, Chris, if it wasn't so dangerous what they're saying that they want to do. You think about the Inflation Reduction Act. There's so many there's so many things that you just list out. You think about the Inflation Reduction Act. That is supposed to actually, it's supposed to help lower the deficit by over $200 billion. So it is a smart plan that the president put forward that lowers costs for the American people, that helps Medicare negotiate so that we can actually, again, lower costs for the American people, our seniors. If you think about it, how important that is, energy security, all of the things that really, truly deal with what Americans need right now when you think about lowering costs while we're dealing with inflation, as we see inflation moderating over the last 7 months. I mean, that's just one piece of item that I'm talking about. There's a whole list of other things that they put forward that actually hurts Americans. Again, it is a gut punch to Americans and lifting up the wealthy and the corporation. I mean, but that's what we're seeing so far. It's up to the speaker to let us know, hey, is this it? Is this what you're saying? Is the value statement that you want to give to the American people? It's for Speaker McCarthy to decide.
Honestly, I know why Speaker Kevin McCarthy does not want to negotiate this in public. It's just not going to be pretty for the Republican Party. You're already going to see, like, putting work requirements and cutting things like Medicaid. There's going to be people that are for that, but anybody that's on Medicaid is going to absolutely hate that. Cutting things like SNAP benefits. Anybody that's on SNAP benefits absolutely going to hate that. There's going to be a lot of pushback from that. Anything they cut that affects any people at all, there's going to be huge amounts of pushback from that. And if they negotiate that stuff in public, it's instantly going to make those people want to vote against Republicans. And Kevin McCarthy knows this. We're seeing a lot more of the bullish Republicans that are kind of like more brazen, just come out with these proposals in public. Kevin McCarthy's he's a little bit more strategic. He's maybe a little bit more, I don't know. I want to say smarter. Maybe he is. He knows that if he does this behind closed doors, it's a little bit better for the Republican Party, because then not everything can be blamed on the Republicans. It's honestly the smarter strategy position for the Republican Party. Um, but if they're not able to do it all behind closed doors, it will create more scrutiny on the Republican Party. Cutting spending is just not a it's not a popular thing. Spending more money and helping more people when you can just spend, and money goes out to buckets of people, money here, money there. It's a popular thing. When you're cutting, it's just not going to be a popular thing. It's just not. So I'll keep you up to date here. You can let me know your thoughts here in the comments. You'll get the truth from me either way, and I'll show you it directly here on the screen. If you appreciate these videos, don't forget to hit the like button. And if you're new here, make sure to hit the subscribe button, then the bell icon so you don't miss out on new videos that come out here every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Here's some videos you should watch next. Here is that video of the fight between Congress and the Fed, and it's coming for all 50 states. Really good video there. And here is President Biden announcing almost $7 trillion in spending. And you'll get to hear what he has to say as well. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.